We'll continue with the conditional and control flow. Okay, so the control flow we started in the last session, the conditional flow, right? So how to use if statement, nested if else, how do we use that in Python? So first of all, what is a control flow? What is a control flow? So in a program, right, using the control, right, control flow is the one which helps us to control the order in which the program code executes. Okay, the control flow of any program, not only Python, right, the control flow of any program is regulated by or controlled by the conditional statements like if statement and loops and function calls. Okay, so basically there are three types of control structures. One is the sequential, that is the default mode. Sequentially the Python interpreter executes the statements, and the next one is the selection type. So it is used for decision and branching. In case if the condition fails, it should branch out to the else part or something like that. And the next one is the repetition. It is used for looping. Sometimes we want to execute the same set of commands multiple time based on some condition also. Okay, so in that kind of situation, the repetition statement, which is nothing but your loops, will be using the loop to repeat a group of instructions or execute the programming instructions or set of statements. Will be using the loops. There are two types of loops. One is for loop and other one is while loop. So what we will do is we will quickly take a look at the conditional programming. Already we discussed the conditional programming is used to control the order of execution of the program based on the values and logic. There are three types of control statements. One is the continue, break and pass. We will take a look at the continue and break as part of the loop itself. Okay, so the loop statements are used to execute the block of the code repeatedly. There are three types of loops. One is for loop, while loop, and other one is nested loop. So you can have the nested for loop, we can have the nested while loop also. So the for loop can take a collection of so if you want to iterate the collections like a list or tuple or string one at a time in sequence, then you can use for loop. So not only we can use for sequence, right, so we can use for our to execute certain block of code repetitively based on some condition. We can use for loop or while loop. Just give me a second, I'll just close the window. A lot of noise. Most likely from next week onwards, we'll continue with the loops. The same thing. If you wanted to iterate, if you want to select each and every value from the list, and if you want to print it, so you can use for loop. This is a simple example. Okay, this is a simple example using which we'll start with the simple example and then we will proceed with the complex one. What I do is I just go to my start menu and then we'll start the Jupyter notebook. I think we already started it. No, it's no. Or in simple term, we can say that we can use a for loop to iterate over a sequence. So what is iterating? Iterating is something like repetitively selecting each value or displaying or printing each value one at a time from a list or sequence. It takes quite a lot of time. I don't know why it takes so much of time. Let us wait for some time. 16 GB RAM or so. So all you need to do is, if you have 8 GB or 4 GB, that is more than sufficient. If you work with the cloud-based Jupyter notebook, so you don't have to do anything here. Look here. So here the examples, these are the examples given by them. Okay. This is a little bit advanced one, the recent one. See, these are the data types these are the Python files that I created it, and Google Drive. And if you have any files that you upload in Google Drive, you can use it, and GitHub, or you can upload it from your local system to here. Okay, so here what I am going to do is, I just Colab. So colab.google.com, colabresearch.google.com. Simply you can open some file here, or new notebook. Look here, you can see the new notebook here. Sorry. When you click on the new notebook, it will open a new notebook. So still it is going on. See, even though I have 16 GB RAM in my laptop, it takes a lot of time. The other reason is my C drive is full. Okay, and that could also be the reason why it takes a longer time. So okay, so this is my IPython notebook. So till this one gets started, let us work effectively using Google Colab. You can type your Python commands here also. Okay. So here we will start with a simple loop statement. For example, I'll start with something like in my basket I have something called mangoes. Pears. So apple. So the list, tuple, and dictionary, set, a string, all these are also called as a sequence. Okay. So here this is my list. I created a list. I just press enter, and here what I do is for fruits in basket and colon. Because after colon, I'm going to type my the statement. Okay, so you need to leave a tab here, or 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, you need to press tab 4 times to give indentation. What do you mean by indentation? Give tab. Okay, so I just not the X fruits. So I'm going to use this for loop to iterate each and every element, to display or to select each element one at a time from this list using this for loop. Okay, so here you can find this button here. So all you need, just hit this button. By clicking on it, it will get executed. So make sure that you are giving indentation. You are going to give tab. You are going to press tab, otherwise it will not get executed. So the for loop, what happened in this case, it goes and fetches each and every element. First time what happens, fruits, first element in this list got picked up, the basket list, it first picks up the first element and it printed it, and then the second element got picked up and it printed, and third element got printed. So selected and then it printed it. So it iterates each and every element, the for loop. Okay. So I just click on plus code, so that if I want to create a new cell, just click on plus code, and here what I am going to do is, I'm going to use the same thing here. I don't want the fetched item to display one after another. So what I am going to do is, I'm going to use end. I'm going to do some kind of formatting here. End is equivalent to empty string, and I'm going to click on this. Look here, mangoes, pears, pineapple, all these values got displayed in a single line. So for that, if you want to, instead of displaying it one after another, if you want to print it in a single line, the output, Okay, so what you do is in the print statement you need to use AND here, and is equivalent to the empty string. Okay, got it? So this is what your for loop, and also you can you print the, or let's say you want to so use a string value, right? So let's say you have string, you want to print the string value, you want to loop through a string. In that case you can create something like this. Here I'm going to say looping, iterating, all these terms are same. So here I'm going to say for yes in Python, or for I in, for each element in, here I'm going to say this one, and print I. Will it work now? Will it work now? If I execute, will it work? It'll work, right? It is working here. So it just iterated each and every character of this string and it printed it, Python. Okay, so cool. So the next one is we have something called break statement. If you want to break your loop, okay, so in that case you can go for break statement. I don't want to print all these fruits in this list. When it encounters pears, right, or when it comes to pineapple, I want this to end. Okay, so I just say pineapple here. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to combine the conditional flow. So what is conditional flow? The if statement. I'm going to use the conditional flow here, and I'm going to say break. Here not x equal to, here fruits equal to pineapple. Look here, if I put something here, right, so x, this got underlined with something, right, here something got underlined here, which means there is syntax mistake. So you need to use your common sense, simple common sense. With simple common sense you can do troubleshooting. So this x is, we did not use it anywhere in this block. In this code snippet we did not use the x. Okay, so instead what we have used, fruits, right? We want to check the fruits equal to pineapple. If the fruit is pineapple, then you can execute. You can exit the, but here in this case the pineapple is the last item, hence it prints pineapple, including pineapple, and then only it breaks the loop. Okay, I want to print only two items, mangoes and pears. So here what happens is the fruits, you can specify, it's kind of an indices. Okay, it goes and pick up the first element from your list and then it prints it, the first element mangoes, and then it counts to the next line. The next line we have the conditional statement, if fruits equal to pears. So mangoes is not equivalent to pears, hence it prints, hence it is not coming here. Okay, hence the loop is continuing here. Okay, so hence what happens, since this condition fails, the control comes back to your for. So the next index is pears, and it goes and print pears, and then it checks if fruits equal to pears, yes, then you break, don't proceed further. With the break statement we can stop the loop. Okay, we can exit the loop. If you want to exit the loop, we can exit it. Supposing I'm going to use continue statement, we have something else called continue statement. Here I just right, so when the continue statement executes the loop, the code inside the loop following will be skipped and the next iteration of the loop will begin. Okay, that is what the continue statement is all about. So here I'm going to say continue. I'm going to include one more fruit here. I'm going to say apple. the list, and here I'm going to say continue. Here, what is the problem here? Capital C, right? So this is how, see, I intentionally did it. So you should be very good at troubleshooting. So make sure that you're not, Python is case sensitive. If you use capital C in place of small c, it will throw. So when you type, look here, when I typed capital C, this keyword was underlined with something, right? Something like this line. That means there is a syntax mistake here. So you need to make sure that whether this keyword is available or not. Okay. The other option is, for example, continue. Press tab. Tab is not working. Okay, this is on Google Cloud. So the tab you cannot expect. So look here. Yeah. So the continue. Look here. So when you type continue fully, it is coming here. Okay, let me do one thing. Continue. Press tab. And if you get something like drop down list, and if you find continue, then the syntax is correct. This is another way of checking whether you typed it correctly. See, if you type wrong keyword, it will underline it, and also you will not see the drop down list. Okay, if I use small c here, I can see it. If you keep the cursor here and if you press, if you see that, right? So press tab, usually it should display this one, but in the Jupyter notebook local, right, you can find it here. So mangoes, pears, pineapple and apple. So here if fruits equal to pears, it is continuing here. Okay, so what is happening here? If, okay, here what I am going to do is, I am going to print it here. Will the output be same or different? The output is different now. See the print statement also, right? We need to put it in the appropriate place. So what you do is you just go, pick up each and every element from this list. The first element is mangoes. Pick up the mangoes from basket list, and then you check the mangoes is equivalent to pears. The condition is not true, hence the continue is not getting executed. Simply the control comes to the last line, it print the first element in your list. In this case it is mangoes, and second one is pears. Okay, see, after printing the first element, the control goes back to the for here, and here the second element is pears. It picks up the pears. If fruits equal to pears, yes, fruits equal to pears, then you skip this one, continue, don't pick up this one. Simply don't break the loop, or don't come out like this. Instead you skip this value, don't print pears, and print continue with printing the rest of the values in the list. Okay, that is what is happening. Okay, so now hope you understood the difference between break and continue. Break is simply to exit the loop. Okay, so when it encounters pears, simply come out of the loop, don't print rest of the elements that are part of your list, or string or tuple. You can use tuple also, you can use string, tuple, and even set also you can use it. Set, string, dictionary, tuple, all these are called as sequence. Okay, now you understood the difference between break and continue. And we have something else called pause. Instead of break, if you put pause here, don't do anything. Okay, simply so I am going to click on this. Mangoes, pears, pineapple. If fruits equal to pears, don't do anything. Okay, print all the fruits. Okay. sometimes what will happen is, if the condition is true, don't do anything, okay, or if the condition is true, do something else, don't do anything, okay. Mangoes, pears and pineapple, irrespective of the place where you put the print, right, it doesn't do anything here, okay. If you put break here, so it will print mangoes and pears, and it will come out of the loop, it will not print the rest of the items. Instead of pass, if you put continue here and print mangoes, and then if the fruit is pears, simply continue printing the rest of the items except this one. That is what your continue statement. And also we can use for loop to the list of values. For example, for I in range of 5, print range function we have already seen. So what does it do? The range function, it will generate the value for a range. If I mention the range of 5, the default minimum value is 0. It will start from the 0 and then the value minus 1, okay, maximum value minus 1. So the minimum value by default is 0. The maximum value is going to be the value minus 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so 4 values got printed. So likewise you can iterate the for loop, okay, and also you can use nested for loop also. Before we start look at the nested for loop, we will take a look at this one, the while loop, okay. We will take a look at the while loop. What is while loop? What is while loop? With while loop, what can we do? So while loop can execute a set of statements as long as the condition is true. Where is the while loop? Nested while. I jumped with the while. Yeah, while else. Yeah, in Python, while else is also available. While loop will execute a block of statements or the set of statements as long as the condition is true. Look here, in the case of while, when you use a while loop, you need to specify the condition. Only when the condition is true, the rest of the statements will get executed, or the block of the code that is part of your while loop will get executed. Whereas in the case of for loop, simply it iterates each and every element, and then based on the condition, if you use any if condition, based on some condition, if you want to do some kind of validation, or if you want to take some other course of action, you'll have to use if along with for, okay. Whereas in the case of while statement, first it checks if the condition is true. Only if the condition is true, the set of statements or the block of statements will get executed as long as this condition is true. So look at here this animation. With this animation you should be able to understand quickly. So here I have assigned the value 1 to A, and the while loop, what happens is, in this case it checks the condition. So here A is less than 10. Initially A value is 1. So 1 is less than 10. Yes, the condition is true. Hence these statements like print of A will get executed. Since the condition is true, the next statement will get executed until this condition is true. Okay, so the print A, and here what happens is, in order for this loop to iterate, in the case of while loop, you need to increment the value. You need to increment the value of A. If you don't specify this statement, what will happen? It will end up getting into an indefinite loop. It will keep, the 1 is less than 2, well, less than 10 is true, print A, and again the control will come to the while part. Again it will say 1 is less than true. It will become an indefinite loop. Okay, so when it comes to while loop, you need to increment the value here. Okay, so A plus equal to, this is called incremental operator. This is equivalent to A is equivalent to A plus 2. A is equivalent to A plus 2. Those of you who worked on C language, you must be knowing that increment operator. Okay, so 1, 3, 5. So look here, in this case what happened in 1, 3, 5 and 7, and after 7 plus 2 9, 9 is less than 10, it is true, 9 will print, and 9 plus 2 11, 11 is not less than 10, hence the condition will fail, the loop will get terminated. Okay, I will use some other example here. I just rename this as day 4. Let me see any good thing happen here. It's still going on, so some problem happened because I opened many applications. So what I am going to do is I am going to say I equal to 1 while I is less than 6, print I. And if I do it like this, and if I execute it, what will happen? So it will keep print 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 n number of times. Okay, so it will cause problem here. Okay, here what is runtime, run all, restart all, view runtime. Okay, here you don't have terminate here. Okay, so let me, even I forgot this one, settings, help, and runtime. So it will keep, it consumes a lot of memory, it causes major problem. You just link to cell here. If you see here, okay, there is no option, I forgot this one, runtime. So what we will restart runtime, disconnect and delete runtime. Okay, disconnect and delete runtime. Yes, in Jupyter Notebook you have something called terminate, or an option is available. So with that you can end the loop, otherwise it will keep printed. And here new notebook, better let me open a new notebook. If you click on file, and you will find new notebook. If you want to open an existing notebook, you can open it. The termination will take some time. Look here, it has gone into indefinite loop. Make sure that where you see in your code logic, right, you are, especially when you use the control statements like while loop, for loop, you make sure that you are using break or continue statement, or the condition is true whether you are incrementing the value of I or not. If you forget to increment the value, it will get into indefinite loop. So I plus equivalent to 1. If I give like this, and if I click on this, so 1 is less than 6, 1 2 3 4 5, it will print. Okay, and now we will see the same thing here. For I in a range of 6. Okay, let me give one thing, 1 comma 6, start and stop. Okay, 6 here, print I. In the range function we can specify the values of the start and the end explicitly. If you don't specify explicitly, what will happen? For example, if you specify 6, the minimum value will be considered as 0. The default minimum value is 0, and then the maximum value -1 is your last value. Okay, so 1 comma 6. So hence what I do is I don't want to use the default minimum value as 0. Instead I want to specify my minimum value as 1. If I print it, let us say 1 2 3 4 5, both these for loop and while loop, we are able to generate the values between 1 to 5. Okay, and even here we can check the condition. We can use break or continue statement like how we used it in for loop. So here what I am going to do is, if I is equivalent to 4, break, sorry, not here, so 1 2 3 4, until 4 you print it, rest of the values don't print it, exit the loop. So here the break statement is helpful to terminate the loop, right? So once this condition becomes true, terminate this loop. Okay, either you need to explicitly terminate the loop, or you need to make sure that you are using the incremental value. Now you tell me, what is the difference between for loop and while loop? What is the difference between for loop and while loop? Jivanandam, why don't you unmute yourself and tell me now? You already attended Java program. How about others? Yeah, already you have the privilege to unmute yourself and talk. You can talk in Tamil also, not a problem. What is the difference between for loop and while loop? Take this simple example, right? So we have used range of 1 comma 6, right? Okay, now the question is, can I use the range in while condition? So instead of 6 here, range of 6. Or let me do one thing, 1 comma 6, something like that. So let me do here. So what happens? It is throwing an error, right? So the less than not supported between instead of int and range. So because here we are not iterating a list of values. Actually, range will generate the list of values, right? If I do it here, the less than not support between instead of int and range. So range is not supported in this case, right? I is less than something like that. It's not possible. Hence you cannot use. That's the reason why I have used explicitly the value here. We have other way of doing it. Okay, we can use some other thing here. Okay, here I is less than 6. We can use some other variable here. Okay, so this j or something like that. J equal to 6. I is less than j. That is a different thing. And now both of them produce the same output. What is the difference here? Okay, here I have used range of 1 comma 6 function. I can use this one upfront, but here what happens is in this case what happens, so you need to increment the value, right? So in the case of while statement, only when the condition is true, the set of statements will get executed, whereas in the case of for loop, it doesn't check the condition. It will keep iterates the value based on the condition that we specify it explicitly. It can act accordingly. In case of break statement, use it, the loop will get terminated. In case of continue statement, if you have used it, it will skip the value. Okay, the same is applicable here. Okay. So in the case of while loop, you need to explicitly increment the value of your indices, right? So here I, you need to increment it explicitly. Otherwise, it will get into indefinite loop. Okay, so the next one is, can I use range from, why am I not able to use while, the range in while? So for example, instead of using less than or something like that, right? For example, if I use, you can also use a range along with while I in range of, you can do it this way, 1 comma 6. Okay, let me do one thing. Okay, let me do one thing here. Okay, if I want to print some values this many number of times, that kind of situation, you can use it. So there is a problem here. 1 second. So why it's not, when it is correct only. sorry, here I need to use I here, but I don't have to use it. Okay, the other reason why we use, first of all, why we need to use for loop one while loop. For example, you want to print welcome to the world of Python 10 times. Okay, so if you want to print the welcome to the world of Python 10 times, you need to use 10 time, you need to use the print statement 10 times. Welcome to the world of Python. Here I have some space. So in the case of Google Colab, it doesn't care about the indentation and all. That is one of the advantages here. I don't know why. Yeah, now it started. Let us test the same thing in our local thing also. So in case you find the same issue, you can try it out more than one time. Okay, we'll try the same thing in our local thing. Here what I'm going to do is I'm going to just file and save a copy in GitHub also. You can do it and locate in drive and download. You can download it as IPyNB. So this is how you can download it from your cloud, so the cloud notebook. Okay, so the cloud Jupyter notebook is pretty simple and very easy to use, and also you can enable the GPU here. Okay, you can enable GPU here. In the notebook settings, if you go here, you have something called hardware accelerator. You can use either GPU or TPU. GPU stands for graphical processing unit, TPU stands for tensor processing unit. So the by default it is a CPU. Okay, and if you are using the deep learning related algorithms, it is all, most of the deep learning algorithms are CPU intensive. In that situations, you can go to edit and then you can go to notebook settings and switch it to GPU. So GPU is 100 times faster than your CPU. It is much faster. So let us try the same thing here. Anyhow, we got this one here. Okay, for example, for I in range of 1,6 print, will it work? It printed 5 times, right? So let's do the same thing here. So what happens here? So what is happening here? When I use this one, it is getting into indefinite loop, right? 1,6. Look here, again the same problem is happening here. So you need to put some condition here. Okay, put some condition and break it. Okay. So in this case, look here, along with this you can see star here, which means this script is being executed. Still it's being executed, it's not stopped. Okay, so now with this you are able to understand some problem is here. I can use range along with this one. Okay, and but the problem is it is getting into indefinite loop. So how do I address this? Is the next question. How do I address this one? Here what I am going to do is you can specify I equal to I plus 1, because we are using I, right? The indices I here. So how do I stop this one? Still it is executing it here, and you can see something like interrupt the kernel. So you can see something like this, the icon interrupt the kernel. When you click on this, it's something like killing your process. Welcome to the world of Python. Only one time it got printed, right? So what is the problem here? Range of while I in range of 1,6 and print this one, the str1, okay, str1, and x equal to x, I equal to I plus 1. In this case, I equal to I plus 1. We are incrementing the value here. Even after incrementing the value, it is printing only one time. Why? Can someone tell me why it is printing it only one time? How can I print it more than one time? You need to initialize the value of your indices initially. Okay, so that is what. So this is the another difference while loop. Look here, you need to initialize this value, right? The same, without initializing this, it was printing, it is considering by default 1 only. Okay, so it prints only one time. So if you initialize the indices value, upfront here, and then if you do the iteration with this, you should be able to print it 5 times. It starts from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if you want to print the value of I here, you can put it here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So hope you understood the difference between for loop and while loop. The difference is, key difference is that you need to increase, you need to initialize the indices value, and then you need to increment the value. And only if the condition is true, the statements that are part of your while loop will get executed. Whereas in the case of for loop, it will simply execute that without checking any condition. It will execute it, and you don't have to initialize the indices value, and you don't have to increment the indices value like how we do it in while statement. The for loop is it automatically initializes the value and it automatically increments the value behind the scene. You don't have to explicitly do that. That is the key difference between for loop and while loop. The same way you can use the break statement, continue statement also, you can use it here. And the ranges, as we mentioned, okay, if you pass a single parameter to the range function, it is used as the upper bound. So 10, if you specify 10, range of 10, it is considered as the upper bound, and then it will, the minimum, the lower bound, the default lower bound value is default, right? So 0, 0, 10. Okay, if you want to print the indices from 0 to 9, so you need to specify the upper bound value 10. Okay, last value, the upper bound value -1. Okay, start from the default value 0 till upper bound -1, it will display. Okay, print the integers from 1 to 10, you need to specify explicitly the lower bound value. If you don't specify the lower bound value, it will consider as a 0. Okay, the next one is I want to increase the value, okay, by 2. So 1, 2, 3, and 1, 3, 11, something like that. Okay, if you want to print it that way, so you can use like how we used in the indexes, in the index, right? The list index, if you want to start colon end colon step size. So the same thing is here. The step size is nothing but 2, increment by 2. So that is what it tells us. The next one is the nested while loop. How can I use the nested while loop? I just go back here. How can I use nested while loop? For example, I want to find out the prime numbers. Okay, I want to print I equal to 2. So what is prime numbers? What are prime numbers? Can someone type it in the chat window? The college students can remember it. So while I is less than 50, between 1 to 50 or 2 to 50, print only the prime numbers. So what are prime numbers? So the prime numbers can be divided only by 1, and it can be divided by itself. Okay, that is what prime numbers. So here I'm going to use the nested loop while j is less than or equal to I divided by j. So the while block starts here what I'm if not I divided by j break, you can write the statement followed by in the single line itself, okay, break else, right? So okay, now we need to increment the value j equal to j plus 1. The next one is if j is less than I divided by j, okay, here print I. So in the okay, here I need to print or you can specify I plus equal to 1, okay. So I is less than 50, right? So print all the prime numbers between 2 to 50. So here what I did, I initialized the value for I as 2 and j is equivalent to 2. So while j is less than or equal to I divided by j, okay, and divide the value of 2 divided by 2, okay, if not then break, okay, if not ij. So if this condition is not true, then break the loop. Let us see what happens first of all. So is this correct? Syntax wise correct? This is not less than, right? It must be. So in that case I just stop it. So because of this, right, it is getting into indefinite loop. So since I may put less than here, it is causing problem. Look here, 2 is prime, so 2 can be divided by itself or it can be divided by 1 only. 3 can be divided by itself or it can be divided by 1 only. The 4 is a prime value. 4 can be divided by 2 also, right? 4 can be divided by 2 also. Here let me check, j is less than or equal to I divided by j. If not, I, okay, so this is the problem here. Two is prime and 3 is prime, and okay, so if not, if I give like this, it shows everything, right? So 2 is prime, okay, I should not, that is a modulo operator, percentage. If not, I divided by I break, and for example let me give this 500 instead of this. Yeah, you can divide it by j only. Okay, in the interest of time, I will leave it as an assignment to you all. Use the while loop and for loop and find out the prime number between 1 to 50. That is more than sufficient. Okay, I don't want you to find out too much. 1 to 50 is pretty faster. You find out, but here what happens is 4 is prime and 6 is prime. Okay, is this correct? 4 is prime or no? Ideally 2, 3, 5, 7, 11 should come here. There is something wrong with the operator. You just check and test it and then come back with your answer. Okay, 2, 3, 5, 7 should come here. Less than 50 and j equal to 2. J is less than or equal to I j. Okay, and then continue. The condition is true. Okay, so what happens is, so here for initially 2 plus 1 is 3. Obviously 3 is less than or equal to 3 divided by 2 is it is not a prime number, right? So okay, so 1, it can be divided by 1 only. I equal to I plus 1. Anyhow, you just check this one. This is an assignment for you all. Okay, you can check it and let me know if this is working fine. Okay, so this is how use this. I'll share this script to you all. Okay, I'll just put that one also here. Day 3 or day 4, right? So now it is day 4. So next one is functions. We will continue with the functions. What are functions? So when do we use function? So what are the advantages of function? We will take a look at that. Just give me a second here. I'll just